Tools that genuinely empower ordinary people, globally, to achieve, well, extraordinary success, mostly through sophisticated automation. And it all seems guided by this one simple but really powerful belief, and it's quoted directly: technology should work for humans, not the other way around.
And what's really interesting is how deeply that philosophy actually shapes the business strategy. I mean, it dictates that OnPassive can't just focus on, say, competing product for product or purely on short-term profit.
Right.
The focus shifts completely. It's about finding those systemic market gaps, the user frustrations that people have just put up with for ages, and solving actual real-world problems.
Yeah.
It's a very different starting point compared to your typical Silicon Valley playbook.
Okay, so if that's the philosophy, tech works for humans, what does that mean in practice? Like, what are the immediate actionable things they focus on when they start developing a new tool for this ecosystem?
Well, they seem to zero in on 5 really critical pillars. These define the project scope right from day one. First, automate complex business tasks. Get rid of that manual drudgery.
Good sense.
Second, ensure global access. And that means simplifying the user experience dramatically, making tools super intuitive, even for people who aren't, tech experts.
Well,
Third, the goal is always to reduce costs for the user, while, at the same time, significantly increasing the value they get, both perceived and actual.
reducing cost, increasing value. Got it.
Fourth, and this is pretty unique, they build in systems engineered right from the start to generate residual income for the users themselves. So the tech becomes a financial asset for them.
Interesting.
And finally, fifth, they leverage AI and machine learning tools very specifically to eliminate human error, operational bias, and general inefficiency. They're aiming for, like, near-perfect fair function across everything they do.
That kind of structured thinking is, it's fascinating. Let's dive right into that very first step in their building process: vision mapping. Because there's a really crucial strategic difference here, isn't there? Traditional tech often builds standalone apps, but Mufare builds ecosystems.
Absolutely. That distinction is fundamental. I mean, the traditional way is you build a product, launch it, and then maybe try to integrate it later.
Yeah, and it often feels clunky.
Exactly. Clunky APIs, security holes, fractured user experiences. This blueprint shows OnPassive starts with the whole integrated ecosystem in mind, the entire suite. Every single product has to be natively interoperable from the moment it's conceived.
So, okay, before a single specialist developer is hired, before any code is written, they do this vision mapping. Our sources lay out 4 key questions that seem to define the scope. First one: what specific targeted problem are we solving? It can't be vague.
Precisely. If the problem isn't, deeply frustrating or super expensive to solve with what's already out there, it basically fails test number 1. And that leads right into the second question. Who needs this solution the most? This really pushes them to focus on maybe marginalized or underserved communities globally. Think small businesses, individuals in developing markets, or just everyday folks who are overwhelmed by complexity. That focus directly serves the democratization goal.
Right, it ties back. Then comes the technical side. How can AI, automation, and innovation ensure global scalability? That seems like the big technical hurdle, preparing for potentially millions of users right off the bat.
Yeah, it's the technical non-negotiable. And the final question really anchors the whole thing back in that core philosophy.
Yeah.
How will this technology fundamentally change people's lives? Not just functionally, but financially and socially too.
So if the answer is just, it makes the company money,
Then the project gets stopped, or at least fundamentally re-engineered. It has to demonstrably lead to empowerment and real opportunity for the end user. That's the acid test.
okay, let's make this concrete. Let's apply this vision mapping process to, say, a wallet, OnPassive's digital banking system. They didn't just decide to build a PayPal competitor out of the blue, right? They started by looking at the systemic flaws in existing financial platforms. What were those major pain points Mufare identified, the ones people just sort of tolerate?
Well, the list's familiar, but yeah, crippling for many. High fees, often hidden, especially when you send money across borders.
Oh, yeah.
Transaction delays. These can absolutely kill a small business trying to manage cash flow internationally.
Definitely.
A real lack of transparency in how money actually moves, which, breeds distrust. But maybe the most critical flaw they targeted was that financial exclusion piece. Billions of people globally don't have traditional bank accounts, yet they desperately need to be part of the digital economy. Existing systems just aren't built for them.
That's a huge structural limitation, the regulatory side too.
Right.
So if O-Wallet is claiming, instant global transactions with low or even zero fees. How do they actually structurally overcome those hurdles? The intermediaries, the costs that plague systems like Stripe or PayPal, that sounds like a big claim.
It is a big claim, and the blueprint suggests the key difference is bypassing those legacy intermediaries altogether. They seem to rely heavily on their own proprietary infrastructure.
Okay.
See, traditional systems depend on correspondent banks, complex clearinghouses, all adding delays and costs. OWallet, because it's integrated from the start within the OnPassive ecosystem, can often use its own secure internal ledger for transactions within the network. That cuts external fees massively.
Right, within the ecosystem. But what about outside?
For transfers outside, the strategy seems to involve using AI-driven regulatory compliance tools. These automate the documentation, the reporting, which cuts down on human oversight costs and really speeds up that cross-border verification process.
So the O-Wallet solution they built is essentially engineered as a direct response, a reversal of those initial pain points they identified.
Exactly. It's built for instant, secure global transactions, aiming for near-zero fees wherever possible. The AI for fraud detection isn't an afterthought. It's baked in from day one. And, crucially, it tackles financial inclusion head-on by supporting methods that empower the unbanked,
How so?
by allowing digital participation without needing a traditional bank account, often tying verification to things like biometrics or simple mobile identity methods instead of bank details. The whole approach just underscores that the Mufari method starts and ends with solving the user's real, often existential frustrations.
Okay, so once that vision is locked down, the pain points are mapped, we move into the next major phase, research and development and talent. This is where the blueprint starts to become reality. And the R&D investment must be pretty significant if they're building for, 5 or 10 years down the line.
Oh, absolutely. The sources really emphasize this forward-looking R&D mandate. They aren't just reacting to today's market. They're actively studying fundamental industry shifts, things like, quantum computing advances, global bandwidth changes, new regulatory landscapes, trying to predict what tech will be crucial 5, even 10 years out.
So they're aiming to launch solutions for, like, the world of 2030, not just tweaking 2024's tech.
That seems to be the goal, yeah.
And that competitive analysis angle is interesting, too. You said they look at competitors specifically to avoid their mistakes. What kind of mistakes are we talking about here? Structural ones?
Yeah, critical failure points, things that really damage user trust or long-term viability, like infrastructure that isn't scalable and crashes when everyone tries to use it at once.
We've all seen that.
Right. Or confusing, bloated user interfaces that just alienate anyone who isn't a tech whiz.
Yeah.
Or monetization models that get too aggressive with ads, or worse, rely on selling user data. By studying those failures, they can preemptively design their systems to prioritize performance, privacy, and genuine simplicity.
So after that sort of defensive analysis, they move to building actual prototype models. This isn't just a quick wireframe sketch, is it?
No, definitely not. These prototypes go through really rigorous internal testing, simulating high-load scenarios, deep functional security checks, all before they even think of scaling for a wider release.
And the blueprint highlights the feedback from OnPassive's founding members as being really crucial at this stage.
Yeah.
Why bring in that specific group before any kind of public beta?
Well, the founding members act as this invaluable, almost like a non-technical stress test. They represent a really diverse global cross-section of the everyday people who will ultimately be the core users.
Right.
So unlike internal tech teams who might have biases or technical blind spots, these founders offer raw, unbiased, real-world feedback on usability, how intuitive it feels, even the financial aspects. Their input makes sure the project doesn't just work technically, but that it actually meets the needs and abilities of the ordinary user it was designed for.
Makes sense. Now, building this kind of ambitious proprietary ecosystem obviously requires top-tier global talent. What specific kinds of expertise are they bringing together for these often decentralized teams?
The talent mix is highly specialized, as you'd expect. They recruit elite AI engineers, specifically focusing on machine learning and deep learning. That's the core intelligence, right? For pattern recognition automation.
Okay.
Then you need world-class protection. So they bring in teams of cybersecurity experts focused on proactive threat modeling, not just reactive patching. Critically, they employ cloud infrastructure architects. Their whole job is ensuring systems can handle millions of simultaneous users, designing for geographic redundancy, advanced load balancing.
And for the simplicity part.
Highly skilled UI/UX designers,
Mm.
dedicated to creating those interfaces that look simple, but are actually incredibly sophisticated underneath, making them intuitive.
Let's use OConnect, the video conferencing platform, as a kind of case study for this R&D phase. When their teams looked at market leaders Zoom, Microsoft Teams, what specific technical frustrations did they zero in on? Things that needed a fundamentally different approach, not just a copy.
Yeah, it went deeper than just, my video is lagging.
Mm.
The technical pain points that they identified were things like inefficient data compression algorithms,
Mm.
reliance on heavily centralized server infrastructure, which creates bottlenecks during peak demand like Monday mornings,
Right.
and interfaces that were often overly complex. Simple things like sharing your screen or hitting record sometimes felt buried under menus. Plus, the pricing structures often excluded smaller groups or individuals who needed high-quality tools, but maybe only occasionally.
So, if lighting video is the symptom people see, what was the underlying engineering solution they built into OConnect? What makes it different?
The blueprint suggests a couple of key things. First, optimized, possibly proprietary compression algorithms that dramatically cut bandwidth needs without making the video look terrible. They also seem to have leveraged a more decentralized approach to connectivity, maybe using peer-to-peer more intelligently, and dynamic bitrate adjustment, meaning the system constantly, instantly tweaks the data rate based on everyone's network conditions.
So it adapts on the fly.
Exactly. The goal was to just eliminate that friction, and combining that technical robustness with an affordable or even free entry point aims to build something genuinely superior and more accessible globally.
That focus on the how, the engineering, leads us perfectly into the next section, where we really drill down into Ash Mufareh's core technology techniques. These are the specific, actionable methods that seem to set this blueprint apart from, more traditional tech development.
Right. This is where we move from the broader philosophy into the kind of nuts and bolts of the engineering strategy. These 5 techniques really feel like the mechanical heart of the whole OnPassive ecosystem.
Okay, technique 1, the AI first mindset. We've touched on this. AI isn't just bolted on, but what does integrating AI at the core of every product actually mean for the user day to day?
It means the technology is designed to be self-optimizing, adaptive. AI isn't just a feature like a chatbot. It's more like the operational nervous system of the platform.
Hmm.
Take Verify, for example. That's the system for OnPassive, Know Your Customer, or OKYC, traditional KYC. Slow, often relies on manual checks, outdated systems.
Yeah, it can take days sometimes.
Right. Verify uses advanced AI-powered facial recognition, document scanning, all integrated with deep learning algorithms. And these systems are trained on huge, culturally diverse datasets. This isn't just about speed and accuracy, though instant verification is the goal. It's also about actively mitigating the human bias that can creep into manual reviews. The AI acts as the gatekeeper, ensuring both security and fairness.
Okay, that's a powerful example. Technique number 2, user-centric design. This feels crucial for that democratization goal, making sure the tech is usable by everyone, not just engineers.
Absolutely vital. This focus dictates that the interfaces have to prioritize simplicity above almost everything else. I mean, if an ordinary user, maybe that street vendor in Lagos you mentioned, or a small craftsperson in rural Italy, if they can't operate the system easily and confidently, the design has fundamentally failed its mission.
So the complexity is hidden.
Exactly. All the complex operations are tucked away beneath an extremely intuitive surface.
OShop is the example given here. How does a small merchant, someone with zero coding skills, actually set up a functioning online store using this?
OShop uses low-code or really no-code principles. Think drag-and-drop modules, pre-built optimized templates. The system automates all the tricky back-end stuff, integrating inventory management, setting up payment gateways, even basic SEO optimization.
Wow.
So the user just focuses on presenting their products, making them look good. The AI and the system handle all the technical plumbing behind the scenes. It effectively removes that massive technical barrier that stops so many small sellers from even trying to get into global e-commerce.
Okay, technique 3, scalable architecture. This is about the raw technical capability needed for massive global adoption. If you're genuinely aiming for millions using it at the same time, how do you stop the whole thing collapsing under the strain?
Yeah, this is absolutely critical for building global trust. The systems are specifically engineered from the outset to support millions of concurrent users without performance just tanking.
How? What's the method?
It's achieved primarily through proprietary cloud native technology. That means the applications are built for the cloud environment. using things like microservices architecture.
Yeah.
And crucially, they use advanced load balancing. Think of it like a super smart automated traffic director.
All right.
If one server cluster, say in Asia, starts getting hammered with traffic, the load balancer instantly and automatically reroutes new traffic to an underutilized cluster maybe in Europe or North America. The user shouldn't notice anything except a fast, seamless experience wherever they are.
That makes sense. Which brings us neatly to technique number 4. Security as a priority. Has to be non-negotiable when you're dealing with financial data, personal data on this kind of scale.
Non-negotiable is exactly the word used. Data protection is framed as the absolute backbone of user trust. The implementation strategy involves really comprehensive, standardized security protocols across the entire ecosystem, not just pockets of security.
Like what specifically?
Things like multi-layer encryption, not just encrypting data as it travels, but also encrypting sensitive data when it's stored at rest and in transit. Furthermore, they mandate biometric authentication, fingerprint, facial ID wherever feasible, to secure user accounts. That makes the system much less vulnerable to typical password hacks.
Right. And the final technique, number 5, continuous improvement. This suggests they view stagnation as like the biggest enemy.
Precisely. The core belief seems to be no software is ever truly finished. The engine driving this constant evolution is a really tight feedback loop.
How does that work in practice?
It relies heavily on constant, real-time user feedback, but not just people writing suggestions. They use AI-driven data analytics to constantly track system performance, user flow, where people get stuck or frustrated. This automatically generates data insights on how the product could be structurally improved, made faster, more efficient. So the product learns and evolves based on its own operational data and how people are actually using it.
That focus on constant evolution, adapting, leads us right into the next section, which looks at the strategy for building sustainable relevance. Not just being popular now, but creating tools designed to be useful for decades.
Yeah, the sustainability strategy here is interesting because it's multi-layered. It touches on environmental responsibility, but also deep structural inclusion.
Okay, environmental first.
On the environmental side, the blueprint mentions Mufara leveraging renewable energy sources for what they call green data centers. This could mean using power purchase agreements or deliberately locating infrastructure in regions with abundant hydro or solar power. The idea is to ensure that this massive global platform minimizes its environmental footprint. It's about building a forward-thinking, sustainable infrastructure model from the start.
And the inclusion focus. You mentioned low-code, no-code systems again. That feels key to sustainability too, right? Keeping it accessible.
Absolutely. If the barrier to entry is too high, technically or financially, you exclude vast numbers of potential users, and the tool's long-term relevance shrinks. They also seem obsessed with access through cross-platform compatibility. A product has to work flawlessly and feel intuitive, whether you're on a cheap Android phone in a remote area, a high-end desktop in an office, or just accessing it through a web browser.
And given the global ambition, localization has to be more than just basic translation, doesn't it?
Oh, much more. Localization needs to be AI-driven and really intelligent. They seem to use sophisticated AI not just for language translation, but also for adapting to cultural nuances across incredibly diverse global markets. The philosophy is, don't ask the user to conform to the tool. Make the tool adapt to the user's language, their idioms, their cultural expectations.
ONET, the social platform, is used as an example here for this cultural adaptation. How does it handle localization beyond just swapping words?
ONET's AI is apparently designed to recognize and adapt to cultural context. So yes, it automatically translates posts, but it also tries to recognize local trends, filter content based on regional sensitivities, or suggest culturally appropriate references. For instance, making sure automated content moderation respects different international norms. The goal is to foster a genuinely global community, not one fractured by language or cultural barriers.
Now, none of this massive global vision happens without people. That brings us to the critical element of team synergy and culture. Mufura's view seems to be that you can't build a global empire alone.
Right, and the recruitment strategy reflects that. It focuses on hiring innovators, not just, employees filling a seat. The aim is to cultivate a culture of deep ownership. Every developer, every engineer, every designer is encouraged to think like a founder, to feel responsible for the success and the quality of what they're building.
And structurally, how does using decentralized teams help achieve better results, spreading people across countries?
Well, by having teams in different countries and time zones, they actively maximize talent diversity. You get a wider range of technical approaches, different cultural perspectives baked into the product development itself. That's vital if you're building something aiming for global compliance and cultural adaptability.
But that diversity must create challenges too, keeping everyone aligned.
It does, which is why the blueprint emphasizes a huge investment in continuous training programs. Keeping everyone's skills sharp in AI, blockchain, cybersecurity, data science, keeping them current with the absolute latest tech trends is essential when your team is that spread out and tackling such complex problems.
Okay, moving into section 5, let's talk quality assurance. If this ecosystem is handling people's money, their business operations, reliability isn't just nice to have, it's everything. The test process needs to be absolutely rock solid.
Rock solid, bulletproof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reliability is the bedrock of user trust. The sources describe a multi-stage testing process that sounds incredibly rigorous, relentless even. Zero margin for error, especially for something critical like OWallet.
Okay, walk us through those 4 stages of testing rigor.
Stage 1 is the foundational stuff. Unit testing, integration testing, all done internally by the engineers as they build. Basic but essential.
All right.
Stage 2 is the beta testing phase. This is where they release the product to selected founding members, those diverse non-technical users we talked about for real-world testing in different environments and different networks, finding usability issues. Stage 3 is the crucial stress testing. This is where they really hammer the system, simulate extreme load conditions maybe, like 10 million users trying to log in simultaneously from 100 different countries within half an hour. They push it until it breaks, define the limiters, and fix the bottlenecks.
And the final stage before launch.
Stage 4. Intensive, often third-party security audits. These are specialized teams whose only job is to try and break in, to find vulnerabilities, denial of service risks, SQL injection flaws, everything before the product goes live globally. It's this painstaking 4-stage gauntlet that allows platforms like OWallet or OConnect to launch with reportedly minimal downtime and earn that high user trust right away.
Okay, now let's pivot slightly to integrated monetization. This is flagged as a pretty unique technique in the Mufari blueprint. It's not just about how OnPassive makes money, it's central to financially empowering the users themselves.
Yeah, this is a major differentiator from standard software as a service models. The whole ecosystem seems designed to be self-sustaining through mutual benefit. Monetization is woven directly into the platforms so that both OnPassive and its users can benefit financially. Users aren't just passive consumers, they become active participants, potentially beneficiaries of the system's success.
But how does that work without, tipping over into questionable MLM-style affiliate structures?
Yeah.
How does it stay focused on product utility first?
That's a fair question. The blueprint really emphasizes that the value has to come first. The products themselves, OConnect, OShop, whatever they have, to solve a real problem and provide genuine utility completely independent of any financial incentive.
Yeah, okay.
The affiliate revenue layer is then integrated onto that useful platform. So for OWallet, affiliates might earn small commissions on transactions they help facilitate, and they can withdraw those earnings instantly. For OShop, sellers generate income directly from their sales without hefty third-party marketplace fees eating into their profits.
And OConnect.
OConnect might offer affiliate revenue for users who successfully host paid webinars or large professional meetings using the platform. It's about monetizing the utility that's already being delivered and used.
So the core idea is that the model becomes self-sustaining and driven by user success. When users do well economically using the tools, the whole platform grows and thrives alongside them.
Exactly. Success is shared. It fundamentally shifts the user base from being just a cost center, which is how many platforms view users, into being a core driver of revenue and growth for the entire ecosystem.
That idea of a self-sustaining loop brings us nicely to our final main section, continuous evolution and future trajectories. How does Mufara ensure they actually master those feedback loops? How do they continuously evolve without just getting buried under mountains of user data and suggestions?
Well, they seem to use a pretty diversified approach to gathering that feedback. It's not just one channel. First, you have the quantitative data and the cold, hard numbers collected in real time by AI analytics looking at product performance, user journeys, drop-off points.
Right, the system data.
Second, they actively monitor community discussions on their own internal platforms like OwnIt. This gives them organic, qualitative feedback. What are people actually talking about, complaining about, wishing for? And third, they hold direct interaction sessions. The sources mention OnPassive 360 events, which seem to be forums for high value, specific suggestions coming directly from founding members and the broader user base. It's about getting that direct human input too.
So it's a blend of automated data analysis and direct human conversation. That mix must drive pretty rapid product evolution, right? Can you give an example of a product that changed significantly because of this feedback loop?
Verify seems like a prime example again. It apparently launched initially as a secure, but maybe relatively standard, know your customer system,
Yeah.
basic document checks. But based on user feedback, particularly around evolving global security threats and the complex needs of cross-border business, the system expanded rapidly. It went from just document verification to incorporating things like live video verification calls, using much more advanced facial recognition, and ultimately integrating blockchain-backed authentication for truly tamper-proof digital identity security. It shows they can pivot and upgrade core features based on real-world user needs and emerging threats.
Okay, so if that's how current products evolve, where is OnPassive heading next, according to this blueprint? What's the focus for, say, Ecosystem 2.0?
The future vision seems focused on some pretty deep future-proofing advancements. Key areas highlighted are expanding the AI capabilities significantly, moving towards advanced decision-making tools for businesses. AI that doesn't just process data, but can genuinely offer strategic advice.
Interesting.
There's also a major focus on deep Web3 integration, specifically using blockchain technology for things like decentralized identity systems, giving users true ownership and control over their digital footprint, rather than corporations holding it.
And metaverse-ready platforms. That term gets thrown around a lot. What does it mean in the on-passive context, given their focus on utility?
It seems to mean developing platforms for virtual collaboration, commerce, education that leverage immersive tech, but in a practical way. Think OConnect evolving into maybe a functional 3D virtual workspace, or OShop becoming a virtual mall or commercial hub, enabling realistic, productive virtual interactions without needing the super high-end hardware or investment usually associated with standalone VR platforms, making it accessible.
And circling back one last time to that core mission of inclusion.
It remains absolutely central. The focus is on pushing global financial inclusion even further, using all these new technologies, AI, blockchain, enhanced connectivity, to make absolutely sure that anyone, anywhere, can participate digitally and economically, regardless of whether they have access to traditional banking or not.
And the sources mention a specific date.
Yeah, they point towards an anticipated launch around July 24, 2025, as being a potentially major milestone. The expectation seems to be the unveiling of significant new solutions, specifically designed to boost those residual income opportunities for affiliates and founders, powered by these next-gen automated tools.
Wow. Okay, this has been an incredibly detailed breakdown. Let's try and synthesize the Ashmore-Ferry method one final time for our listener, just the core cycle.
Yeah, the core strategic loop seems really clear when you lay it out. It starts with identify a deep systemic problem affecting lots of people.
Right.
Then, build a genuinely differentiated solution, simple, scalable, secure from the very beginning, integrating AI and automation everywhere.
Test it relentlessly.
Test it relentlessly against real-world use cases. Then, crucially, monetize it in a way that the users benefit financially, creating that self-sustaining ecosystem.
And then repeat.
And then finally, continuously improve based on that blend of hard data and direct user feedback, and the whole cycle starts again.
It really is a deliberate strategy, isn't it? Structurally trying to prioritize long-term utility and user empowerment over those more traditional, sometimes extractive profit models we often see.
And that really is the final implication here, looking at this blueprint. This approach hasn't just built, another global tech company. It seems to have effectively set a completely new structural standard for how ethical, sustainable, and genuinely inclusive innovation can be done in the digital age. It's fundamentally challenging the status quo in the global tech sector.
Which leaves a pretty critical question for you, the listener, to think about as you process all this. Considering this highly structured blueprint, one that mandates technology must prioritize sustainable empowerment and financial inclusion for the everyday, often non-technical, global user, what fundamental responsibility do traditional tech leaders now have? Do they need to pivot their existing profit-first models towards something more user-centric, more inclusion-focused?
It's a challenge that really defines the conversation for the next decade of digital evolution, doesn't it? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the technology blueprint.
We'll catch you next time for more in-depth knowledge.